What is going on, everyone? My name is Wasabi and thank you for tuning in to Bare Bone Mods. Today we're going to be installing the Helder's Game Boy Advance amplifier and speaker. Now I will say, as I was opening this package, the guy took the time to really package this stuff well. And I don't know about you, but for me, packing says a lot about the products that you sell. So if you take the time to wrap this in bubble wrap, on top of that you duct tape it to the bottom of the box, that tells me that you genuinely care about the products that you sell and want the customer to experience great product review overall. So that's what this is for me. I mean, if you take a look, we got the speaker that's got the little styrofoam cut out with the cardboard, which is really nice. And on top of that, he included a nice little cool decal sticker that I use for the case of my Game Boy, so I'll lay that out right there. And we've also got the Helder's Game Tech amplifier. Again, I'm emphasizing Helder's because this guy makes really good stuff. So we'll lay that out right there. We've got the amplifier, speaker, and the sticker. So let's go ahead and get into this mod. Before I get started with this installation, I just want to give you an example of what the standard speaker sounds like with the Game Boy Advance turned on at maximum volume. And I'll do that by demonstrating Castlevania Circle of the Moon. To kick things off, we just need to disassemble the Game Boy Advance by removing the 6 tri-wing screws from the shell, as well as the Phillips head in the middle. Once you get that off, you just want to take out the 3 Phillips head screws that hold the PCB to the shell of the Game Boy. Then you can easily disconnect the ribbon cable from the Game Boy and flip it over to have access to the other side of the motherboard. So a little tip I want to suggest to you guys is that whenever you do these kind of mods where you're required to solder more things to the PCB, it's always a good idea to take a photo of the connections that you've made prior to. Just in case you forget, you can always look back at the photos to make sure that your connections are going to the right place. So for me, I found the easiest way to do this install with everything I have is to go ahead and disconnect the 3 wires from the ribbon cable of the IPS V2 screen. Once those wires are removed from the IPS V2 ribbon cable, you want to go ahead and desolder the wires that are connected to the Bluetooth chip. This will help you later on when you're trying to add the amplifier as well as attaching the new speaker. So you grab some soldering wick, go ahead and suck up as much solder as you can. Now this part of the install, I want to emphasize, you really need to take your time with desoldering the speaker, making sure that you just be as gentle as can be. If you let the soldering iron do the work, it will work for you. Now remember, you want to work smarter, not harder. So after a few minutes of tinkering with this, I was actually able to remove that speaker from the PCB. Next, you want to grab some isopropyl alcohol. I recommend using at least 70%. You can use 90. There isn't much difference between 90 and 70%, other than that the 90% dries a lot faster than 70%. But you also want to use some Q-tips, and you just want to give a good cleaning to the pads where the speaker was originally attached. Now cleaning this will remove any flux residue that was left originally when the speaker was first installed. Once you've gone ahead and removed all of the residue flux from the previous speaker, you want to go ahead and add some flux to the following points: S1, SP, volume, and ground. Now, when you add that flux, you want to go ahead and pre-tin the volume and SP location. This will make it a whole lot easier to set the amplifier up so that it is aligned correctly on the PCB. Once you've gone ahead and soldered those points, you want to then go ahead and solder the ground back to the PCB. Now, when I was doing this, I didn't originally make the soldering connection flat, and therefore I did have some connection issues when I did try to reboot my Game Boy Advance. It didn't have any audio, so I had to go back and actually remove a lot of solder to the bare pin itself. to get this to reattach. So I want to emphasize that you just want to really take your time, make sure that everything is flat and flush against the PCB so that you do have good connections when you turn on the Game Boy Advance, so you don't have any audio issues like I did. Once the amplifier has been soldered to the PCB, you then want to solder the 2 points SP positive and SP negative. These are going to be the points that the speaker will be soldered to. I want to emphasize that with the generic speaker that comes from the Game Boy itself, it doesn't handle these kind of modifications very well. Therefore, when you turn the power on, you get these kind of raspy kind of sounds that kind of just that really take away from the overall experience of playing the Game Boy. And I will say that I did originally solder the 2 points of the speaker incorrectly, so when I did turn the Game Boy on, I didn't have any audio. So I actually had to go back and make sure that my soldering points were flat against the PCB so that the game would turn on, as well as having audio. But once you get all that sorted out, you want to then go ahead and solder the points back to the IPS V2 screen, making sure that you have good contacts. I will say that at some point in time, there is just too much pressure on the pad itself of the IPS V2 screen, and unfortunately it got ripped off. So therefore I actually do need to replace that ribbon cable for the IPS screen so that I can control the brightness, but I'll do that in another video. But you then want to go ahead and make sure that all the points are soldered correctly to have a good connection. Then connect the ribbon cable back to the Game Boy and let's get it booted up. Overall, adding this amplifier from Helder's Game Tag to my Game Boy Advance was not that difficult of an install. The only issues I ran into personally was not having that amplifier flush against the PCB. In addition, I didn't install the speaker correctly, so when I originally turned on the Game Boy, I didn't have any audio. But after getting those connections fixed and the PCB flushed with the amplifier, this thing works great. I will say there were some concerns of the Bluetooth not being able to work with all these other mods, but after getting it set up, this thing works flawlessly. I do want to take the time just to show you that the first version that Helder came out with for the Flex Game Boy Advance amp was a little different, and I did try to add it to another Game Boy I had, and I completely butchered it. It's like, it's really bad. But I just want to emphasize that if you actually take the time to do these mods, you actually have the right tools to do them. It's pretty easy to add these modifications to your Game Boy Advance. You don't actually have to spend an arm and a leg to do these things. So with that being said, I do want to thank you for taking the time to just watch this newest video from Barebone Mods. As always, my name was Wasabi. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace!